Hello, we are the team number 3, and this is our final project. We're going to talk about Canada.
Hello, I am Andrea Rodriguez. Canada was inhabited mainly by American Indians and units for thousands of years. Canada has inhabitants as Asian nomads from Siberia when it was connected to Canada 35,000 years ago. The units were divided to the north and in the rest of the American connected the American Indians. The Norway begins discovering Canada and its original inhabitants 1,000 years after Greece. In 1942, Christopher Columbus visited Canada for the first time. In the 1600s, French established a trading post in Canada, with which a colonization of Canada began. In 1608, French-speaking Quebec was founded. Canada passed into British hands in 1763. In 1982, Canada became independent from the British, although it was already operating autonomously before this.
Hi, I am Litzy and I'm gonna talk about the government of Canada. The system of government in Canada is a federal state, a constitutional monarchy, and enjoys a parliamentary democracy. Canada is governed by the crown system and federal system. In the crown, Queen Isabel is the head, then there is the Governor General of Canada, and each province has a governor. In the federal government, they democratically elect the prime minister, and thus each province has its minister, and the territories have commissioners. That is the hierarchy. Whose function is to defend the national territory, um, international politics, trade, and guaranteeing citizenship to a person, for example. And Canada has 10 provinces and 3 territories. The provinces have the power and responsibility to decide their educational and healthy system. The difference between provinces and territories is that the territories are very small, and that is why they didn't achieve the status of province. And that is the government of Canada. It is a bit confusing to understand the form of government in Canada, but it is also very interesting. In close, I recommend that when you have time, you watch videos. And finally, the final point, to make it clear, Queen Isabel has intervention in the state, but first in a more indirect way, to put it in some way.
Hello, my name is Marieli, and I'm going to talk about the education in Canada. Canada has one of the highest quality education systems in the world. It has been among the best training options for many years, offering numerous professionals and individual development opportunities. The country is in the world ranking with the third best score in Western countries according to the report of the International Program of Student Assessment. And the education here is public and free for all residents, from preschool to high school, including technical training for work. It is important to note that the country spends about 7% of its GDP on education. And this country doesn't have a national education system since each of the provinces and the 3 territories that make up the country organize their education system with their own characteristics in order to better reflect the culture and history of the region. The education in English and French has been available in most places in the country since 1982. The above by the fact that there is a part of the country still with a French-speaking predominance. This makes it the second language for students in the teaching of French. Canada's education system places greater emphasis on learning and success in subjects of more elementary need such as languages, arts, mathematics, and science, while subjects such as music, visual arts, and physical education become less important, not leaving them aside in the educational plans in any case. In the relationship with other countries, Canada defines his interests and values in a complex global environment. The country manages diplomatic relations, promote international trade, and provide consular assistance. They lead international development, humanitarian, and peace and security assistance efforts. And they also contribute to national security and the development of international law. Canada is an active member of the most important multilateral trade and regional financial institutions. It is a member of all the major international organizations that correspond to it geographically. A founding member of NATO and the OSCE and belongs to the OAS. Canada has historically played an active role in the United Nations, especially in relation to peacekeeping operations. It's important to note that Canada's main economic partner are the United States, and its economic relations have been framed since 1994 through the North American Free Trade Agreement, in which it also participates Mexico, and which created one of the most important free trade zones in the world.
Canadians are represented by being keen and honest. They have the habit and being punctual and respect intervals of coexistence and urbanity. They are nationalists and proudly profess their love of their homeland. Honest keenness, punctual respect intervals of coexistence and urbanity. Nationalists and proud of their homeland. Values are of utmost importance to your society. Justice, tolerance, respect, equality, maintenance of social peace and civic collaboration. Discrimination is provided in Canada seek to treat everyone fairly and fairly. Equality of before the law and between men and women in all areas. Code-free Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms protect freedom of worship, and multicultural national world religions are represented.
According to UNAID, there are 7,916,667 immigration living in Canada, which represent 21.07% of the Canadian population. Female immigration is higher than male immigration women, which represent 52.43% of immigration compared to male immigration who are 47.56%. Immigration ranking we see it as significant proportionation on immigration among its popularity. Immigration in Canada coming money from India 9%, China 7.5%, and Philippines on 9%. In recent years, the number of immigration living in Canada is decreased by 1.2%. In Canadian, 83.57%, a very large percentage of the population declares Telmes to believers. On 76.6 on percent on the country population practices Christianism. So is the religion most followed beyond the population. In recent years, is the percentage of believers at decreased to 87.31% to 83.57% as where Cristianismo sual decreased. In the Prosperous survey, 80.67% process of the according to the last date for 76.61% of the population professed it.
Culture is the artistic, musical, literary, gastronomic, politic, and social elements of any country. Canadian culture has been influenced by its former French and British colonizers. This can be seen in one of the what some believe to be Canadians' most beautiful culture and museums. In museums, you can see works by painters like Paul Kane, who although he was Canadian, was influenced by British art by sculpting his works in ivory or ceramics. Some customs that represent Canada could be the festival in Calgary, where bullfights and wild horses are held. Jazz festivals in Canada being the most important in the country. Its culture is also notable for its great museums, such as the Royal Ontario Museum dedicated to archaeology, geology, and paleontology. And returning to the topic of the British Crown, you can visit Thunderbird Park, which is part of the Royal British Museums and has one of the oldest buildings in British Columbia that has been dedicated to the natural anthropological history of the country. June 21 is a very important day in Canada, since part of its culture is to celebrate Aboriginal Day, where a great party is held where there is music, dance, and crafts that are inherited centuries ago. The main group is represented by more than 52 indigenous population speaking more than 60 languages. However, in Quebec, they don't celebrate Canada Day, they celebrate Quebec Day. In Quebec, the most predominant culture is French, so in their parades and concerts, there is only music, food, and dances from France. This is why their culture is to speak the French language. Canadians are the most punctual people with whom you will deal, so much so that they establish schedules for what they consider pleasant and not pleasant. Something unpleasant is that you are 50 minutes late since they consider it a serious lack of respect for another person's time, and 50 minutes early is an awkward surprise. The tips. Tips should always be 50 more or more percent. If this is not done this way, you may receive a bad treatment on the next visit. In terms of food, it is a bit difficult to mention a single dish that is typical in Canada. This is because, as mentioned above, Canada is made of different cultures that have continued to be adopted until today. However, a custom they have is in a Paris they make a poutine, a plate of French fries bathed in a sauce and cheese, and a dish called castor that is one of the best desserts. The culture in Canada is extremely wide. There are other customs such as taking off shoes before entering a house. The polar bear swim, which is a tradition where they take off their clothes to go swimming to attract abundance. Hockey, which is a great passion and custom to meet watch the games, and the hundreds festivals that receive tourists every year. Tourism in Canada is very active. Only in 2019, around 32 million tourists were registered, which represent 1.1 of GDP, which ranked number one of the countries with the most tourism in the world. The problem is that since Canada is such a large country, this is not so significant. In 2020, and as a result of the pandemic, no such high rate of tourism was pronounced for obvious reasons, being the first time that something like this has happened since tourists increased annually in Canada. The countries that most frequently visit Canada are the United States with 68%, the United Kingdom with 3.7%, and China with 3.4% of tourists annually. It is expected that by 2025 tourists can increase, so they are creating a strategy to attract tourists also in the low season, investing almost $60 million in the tourism sector. That has been raised as many people do not want to travel in the low season due to the weather and only visit the large cities such as Quebec, Montreal, and Ontario. Increasing tourism after the pandemic is important since it is one of the pillars of the Canadian economy and also employs 1.8 million people. These are some of places that you can visit in Canada. If you love ecological tourism, you can visit Niagara Falls, the Rocky Mountains, among other national parks. Among its famous and very touristic parks is the Nahanni National Park, where you can see waterfalls and hot springs with thousands of bears. Spotted Lake is one of the most touristic natural places since the spots that are in the bottom change color depending on the season. That is why it has that name. But the most touristic place in Canada is definitely Niagara Falls. Thousands of tourists travel to Canada just to see them either running strongly down the walls or almost frozen depending on the time of year you visit them. But if you are more interested in culture, you can visit the Notre Dame Basilica in Montreal, and the most striking building for being Gothic and for all the art such as paintings and sculptures that are inside. If you like dinosaurs, you can visit the Provincial Dinosaur Park, which is listed as a World Heritage Site, since more than 500 dinosaurs fossils have been found. You can also visit the Royal Ontario Museums, being one of the most important in the world with more than 30 million ancient objects. The peak-to-peak east cable car connects Whistler Mountain with Bacon Mountains. Its cabins are made of glass and it has a museum, cinema, and international food restaurant. But you cannot live without visiting the Northern Lights, a total spectacle. This can be observed when the sky is already in total darkness and especially in polar areas. If you want to see them, you need to find a place where there is not much pollution and the sky is clear.